My Best Friends Live in the Woods. The Adventures of Albert by Anne Michelle Mracek. Chapter 26, Flower Crowns. Molly was so excited she could hardly contain herself. A real princess! Wow! What should we call you? She asked Anthena. Call me? What do you mean? Anthena had no clue what being a princess meant at all. You know, Your Highness, Your Majesty, Molly grinned. Oh, no, please just call me Anthena. I don't want anything to change. Anthena was touched by Molly's enthusiasm, but also found it a bit overwhelming. Let's go make daisy chain crowns, Clara offered. That sounds fun, Jillian agreed. The four girls had walked down to the stream and were sitting on the wide sandbank where the flow curved off to the left. The sun was warm and the sky a beautiful true blue. Beautiful day, isn't it? Albert called to them as he walked up. It is now, Clara said quietly to herself. Molly waved him over. We're going to make daisy chain crowns, Clara said much louder to Albert. Come along and help, Molly invited. Sure, I'd like that, Albert grinned. But why just daisies? Let's add roses and lilies too, he offered. Jillian clapped. Lovely idea. Anthena smiled at her friends. As long as everyone gets a crown, she added. As you wish, Your Highness, Molly teased. Anthena pushed her with a little headbutt and they all laughed. Why aren't you off playing with Jimmy? Molly asked Albert. Oh, I'll catch up with him later, he blushed. I saw some lilies on the way here. Come on, I'll show you, Albert pointed. It was truly a beautiful day. The forest laughs and flowers, and it was ablaze with the vibrant orange of the tiger lilies, the royal purple of the coneflowers, the sunny yellow of the calendula, the softest pink of the rose petals, and the purest white of the daisies. As they gathered their bouquets and skillfully wove them into crowns, the flower perfume filled their senses. Anthena gets her crown on first, Molly insisted. Albert, you place them on our heads, she instructed. And Jillian, Clara, and I will sing. She waved the others around. As Albert placed the fresh flower crown on Anthena's head, Jillian led the singing. All hail, sweet princess, may you blossom and grow, and only love may you know. They all clapped and laughed. That was lovely, a deep baritone voice said, and they all spun around to see the great stag and mother deer, or should I say the queen, walking toward them. I think that would be perfect for the official crowning, don't you, my sweet? He said, looking to Mother Deer. Yes, just perfect, she nodded with a big smile. Then it's settled. The official crowning will be part of the longest day ceremony. We were wondering what to do, but now it is perfectly clear. Exactly this. Molly and Clara will be her maids, and Jillian will lead the singing as priestess. And Albert, would you do the honors of placing the crowns? He looked at Albert and smiled. Me? Really? The great stag nodded. I meant it when I said this was perfect. He grinned. Wow! Can I wear my purple vest? Albert asked. He only wore it for the most special occasions. I think that would be appropriate. The great stag nodded. Do I have to come home now? Anthena looked over at her mother. No, dearest, stay and play with your friends. She smiled, and the two royal parents walked back up the hill. Wow! Molly yelled. We get to be royal maids! Clara was glowing. Okay, my turn, Molly laughed. Put a flower crown on me next, Albert. We need to practice. And so the merriment continued with the gusto that comes from purpose. I don't think I should get a flower crown since I will be in the role of priestess, Jillian said in a somber tone. I'll not hear of it, Anthena protested. My best friend gets a flower crown. My first command, she laughed. Clara was last. As Albert placed the beautiful flowers around her head, the perfume and the brilliance of her smile made him dizzy. You look so beautiful, he said just loud enough for only her to hear. So do you, she whispered back. Suddenly embarrassed, Albert said, I should go find Jimmy Squirrel and tell him I am placing the crowns for the ceremony. He'll never believe it. As Albert started to trot off, Claire called out, See you later? And he smiled back, Sure. Albert was really in no hurry to find Jimmy. He needed a little time to himself to think. I've never felt so dizzy, he thought to himself. He was nearly to Jimmy's nest before the feeling wore off. Albert picked up an acorn and lobbed it up into the nest. He was getting to be a pretty good shot and bonked Jimmy on the head. Oh yeah? Jimmy taunted back and threw down an acorn of his own to clobber Albert on the shoulder. It was the rough and tumble way the two greeted each other. After a few more acorns flew back and forth, Albert called up, Come down, I have news. Jimmy's response was his typical self. Oh yeah, I have bigger news. Well, we'll never know till you come down, Albert shot back. Okay, fine. Jimmy pretended to be annoyed, but he was really happy to see Albert come. Me first, Jimmy said, hardly able to contain himself. There's gonna be an official crowning at the longest day ceremony, he blurted out, very impressed with himself. I know, Albert smiled back. You do? Jimmy was amazed. He thought he was the first to know. He had been gathering acorns near the Great Glen when the Great Stag and Owl walked right under his tree. He couldn't help but overhear the discussion. But sire, there must be an official crowning. You can't leave these matters to hearsay and gossip, Owl had insisted. Yes, of course, you are right, the Great Stag agreed. It's just that the Queen doesn't want anything too fake or pretentious, he advised Owl. Oh, well, yes, I will leave the details to you, but I think it should be part of the longest day ceremony, Owl continued. The Great Stag nodded. As you wish. And the two walked out of earshot. Jimmy was bursting to tell someone, but was also a bit afraid of being caught eavesdropping. How could you possibly know? Jimmy was in disbelief. Because the Great Stag and the Queen visited us at the stream today, Albert burst. I am going to place the flower crowns on their heads. Now, do tell! Jimmy's tail was flickering a mile a minute. This was news. As Albert retold the events at the stream, Jimmy crunched acorns with nervous energy. He always ate when he was nervous, which, come to think of it, was pretty much all the time. Oh boy, Jimmy was so excited. Can I go tell Gabby and George? He asked. Albert grinned. I guess so. No one said it was a secret. Jimmy bounded off toward the great tall walnut tree to see if the bunnies were home. He just had to be the first to tell someone. Albert laughed out loud. He does have a point, though, Albert thought. I better get home and tell Mother Skunk before news spreads. I can see the whole forest will know soon. Albert trotted straight away to the cave and came bounding in all smiles. Mother, can we iron my purple vest? He teased. Why, yes, of course, but whatever for? Mother asked as she dried her hands on a dish towel. Anthena is going to be crowned princess at the longest day ceremony, and I am to place the flower crown on her head, Albert said with great joy. Mother Skunk squealed and clapped her hands. Oh, Albert, what an honor! Now, tell me everything. Albert retold the meeting at the stream with enthusiasm as Mother Skunk jumped and clapped. It was too exciting to sit still. So, we have about 1 moon to get ready, she calculated. There is so much to do, I don't see how I will ever be ready in time, she fretted. Albert was confused. But all I asked was to iron my purple vest. He couldn't understand why all the fretting. If there is going to be a royal crowning, then we have to get everything decorated and cleaned and get new clothes. She was pacing and trying to make a mental list of the necessary preparations. Why? Albert didn't see why all the fussing was necessary. Because my children are now part of the royals. Who would have ever dreamed that a mushroom hunt could have transformed our lives in so many ways? Albert, only royals can place a crown. Only royals can be maids to a princess. Only royals can be priestesses. Don't you see? Jillian's love of Anthena has pulled us all into the royals' inner circle. It's so thrilling! But I want everything to be perfect. The cave cleaned and decorated, and we must all look our very best at the ceremony. I don't want anyone looking down on us. She was truly excited, but also a bit worried. Why would anyone do that? Albert blinked. Because, son, we are skunks. Remember? We walk last at the spiral of light. She cast her eyes down. No one looks down on you, Mother, Albert protested. How could they? You're the most loving and giving of everyone in the forest. Mother smiled. Thank you, dearest. But do you remember what Mother dear said at our first meeting? She asked. Albert shook his head. She said, I never thought I would be friends with a skunk. That says it all. That was a long time ago, before she knew you. Now you two are great friends. Albert tried to reassure her. Even so. If I had known that she was the queen, I would have been so nervous. Mother Skunk was pacing the floor, which is precisely why she didn't want anyone to know, Albert insisted. But if it will make you feel better, we will all pitch in and do all the cleaning and decorating you like, he smiled. As the sun traveled low in the sky, the children began trotting home from their adventures. They came bounding in all smiles and chatter. Apparently, Jack and Charlie had been playing with Gabby and George when Jimmy came up all full of news and they were making plans of their own. Maybe I can carry the train of a robe, Jack was saying to Charlie as they came in the front door. Well, what can I do? Charlie pouted. What are you talking about? The others became curious and began to gather around them. Mother clapped her hands for silence. We need a family meeting. No more gossip or news until we are all home. Where is Bluebell? She looked around. Everyone shrugged. What's for dinner? They began to chatter. Mother smiled. Tummies always win, she said to herself. There is a big pot of potatoes, black beans, and onions on the hearth, she announced proudly as she began getting bowls down from the shelf. Light up, she instructed. I'll get the ladle, Albert offered. Mother Skunk kept peering over her shoulder, looking out the window for Bluebell. She was usually the first one home. Then an audible sigh of relief came from Mother as she saw Bluebell's silhouette in the window. For you. Mother heard a deeper voice. Someone was talking with Bluebell. "Oh, they're lovely, thank you," Mother heard Bluebell reply. Then, in another moment, Bluebell came in holding a bouquet of red bee balm flowers, a huge smile on her face. Mother Skunk smiled. "More news?" she asked Bluebell. "Later," Bluebell smiled back as she looked for a vase of water to put the blossoms in. "Dinner first." She nodded toward Albert, who was busy filling bowls with the delicious contents of the hearth pot. When everyone was content with a bowl, Mother clapped for silence once more. "There is news," she said as she smiled. "Wonderful news! But I will let Albert, Molly, and Jillian tell it," she announced to her children. Then she looked at Jillian. "Did Anthena go home, or will she be joining us?" she asked. "She went home to the Great Glen," Jillian said. Mother Skunk nodded. "So would you three tell everyone about your meeting with the Great Stag and the Queen?" she asked. Charlie yelled out, "We know! Jack and I know!" as he jumped up and down. "That's wonderful, Charlie, but you need to let the others tell it," she said sternly. "Aw, shucks," he said, plopping back down. It was fun to tell their siblings about the crowning ceremony. It became a lively interaction with questions and answers flying and many happy squeals. "Do you think I could carry the train of a robe?" Jack asked Albert. "I don't know if Anthena will wear a robe," he answered. "But if she does, do you think I could carry the train to keep it from dragging on the ground?" Jack insisted. "What about me?" Charlie chimed in. "I want to carry the train." Albert laughed. "We shall see," he smiled. After supper, they were much too chatty and excited to settle down for bed. "We will never get them to settle down," Bluebell sighed to Mother Skunk. "I was hoping we would have a few minutes alone to talk," she smiled. With that, Mother Skunk clapped for silence. "Everyone, head to the great moss bed," she announced. "Aw, I'm not tired. 10 more minutes." The protest started immediately. "Get in bed, and then I have a game for us." Mother pointed toward the bedroom. As the children piled onto the great moss bed, Mother continued. "Here is the game. When I point to you, I want you to tell everyone one thing you are grateful for. And everyone will be quiet and listen," she instructed. This was new. They all got quiet and began to think of what they might say. "Jillian, you are first. Name one thing you are thankful for," she said, smiling at her daughter. "Oh, that's easy. I'm thankful for my singing," she said. "Good. Now, Molly, what are you thankful for?" Molly didn't need long. "I'm thankful for my best friend, Clara." "Very nice," Mother smiled. "Now, Albert, what are you thankful for?" she asked. Albert's mind raced in several directions, but the answer was obvious. "I'm thankful for you, Mother," he said with such love it brought a tear to Mother Skunk's eyes. As each child took a turn, the great moss bed began to work its magic, and the warmth of the snuggling up close made them all feel safe and relaxed. By the time all 23 had a turn, heads were nodding and dreams beginning to flit across their faces. As Bluebell and Mother tiptoed out of the room, Bluebell looked at Mother with admiration. "You are a genius," she whispered. "So?" Mother peered at Bluebell as they sat in the kitchen, each holding a fresh mug of chamomile tea. "Who is he?" she smiled. "Benjamin," Bluebell stated, a broad smile across her face. "We met the night of the lantern walk." She was both embarrassed and excited to tell Mother. Mother nodded. "Will I like him?" she teased. "Oh, yes, he is so kind and thoughtful and brave and strong and—" She caught herself gushing and began to blush and giggle. "Shh!" Mother smiled and pointed toward the bedroom. Bluebell nodded and continued in a whisper. so, yes, you will like him very much." She was grinning head to toe. "Perfect." Mother Skunk stood up slowly and rubbed the small of her back. "Then we will leave it at that for tonight." She kissed Bluebell on the forehead and began trotting toward her chair by the hearth. "Good night, my dear," she called over her shoulder.
Chapter 26, Flower Crowns. Discussion and Questions. Honor. In all societies, there seems to be a social hierarchy that is respected and honored. The revelation of Anthena's royal status has proven her friends to be genuine. Instead of being jealous or bitter, they're delighted and happy. Question 1. Are you delighted and happy at the good fortune of others? Flower crowns and the pretend ceremony was truly an expression of love. Matthew and the Queen recognized this and knew it was the sincere and unpretentious ceremony they wanted. Question 2. How can you show sincere love and appreciation to friends and family? Question 3. Is there someone in your life who deserves to be honored? Mother Skunk recognizes that the crowning has elevated her family's social status. She is also aware that it's the loving relationship that has brought about the change. She is worried that she and her family are looked down upon because they are skunks. Albert wisely insists she is judged only for her personal merit, as it should be. Question 4. Do you honor or judge others based on their personal merit?
I am the composer and performer for all the music in this video. Both audio recordings and the printed scores are available on mybestfriendsliveinthe.woods.com. I will provide the link below. The painted illustrations are also my creation. Prints are available on mybestfriendsliveinthe.woods.com. This is a novel. The chapters are meant to be heard in the order in which they were written. And while each chapter can stand alone, they do build as new characters are introduced and past events are referred to. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. The chapters are numbered, so if you're just joining us, be sure to go back and watch from chapter 1.
In a dream, in a trance, my spirit flies to the pink horizon of the forest, where fairies say, "Come and play," and the animals say, "There's a better way." An enchanted